Bienvenue à Dublin. Thank you so much, Michel Gondry, for coming all the way from Paris and returning this evening just to be with us all at the Digital Biscuit. Michel was making a calculation about how many people there are and how many miles each person has.
You did the calculation.
Okay, well, that's probably
so
why
I end up like 13 miles per person.
So that's a lot of travel he's done for every single one of you here today. Also, I'd like to thank Digital Biscuit for another amazing event. Thank you so much. And also the French Embassy for helping with this particular talk. And I need to let you know that Michel is also the head of the jury for the Unifrance myfrenchfilmfestival.com and also designed the trailer. And the site is live now. So if you'd like to go on there, they're French feature films. So we'd like you all to go and check it out and vote and engage with all that, please. So we're underway. I would be here for 6 hours, at least I would, happily. But we're going to kind of race through some things together. There will be a Q&A at the end, so we'll try to keep those questions nice and tight and lots of lovely answers. But in the meantime, I'm going to just, personally, I'm very outraged, and I want to right an injustice here with you all, because I have been working for a number of years in this business, and people keep referring to the Matrix shot. And it's not the Matrix shot. It is the Michel Gondry shot, who invented it, and then they used it elsewhere. So if you want to go ahead, please, Derek, and roll the... We're going to let the videos play in the background. Because our time is so limited, we're going to lose the audio from this. But just because I remember seeing this in 1995, it came out, and being so astonished, even just because I felt like it was the first time we'd ever accurately seen the experience of an altered consciousness in film like this in such a sophisticated way. So if you would, I'm sure you've talked a lot about this before, but if you could just share with us a little bit about how you imagined it and then what happened to your idea.
Well, it's interesting because people ask me over and over why I don't like digital, and I always go with cardboard and handmade stuff. And this is an example that proves the opposite, because this was a technique that was purely digital. It was using the morphing in a different way that it was used before. So there is two techniques in this video. There is one where we shot with a still camera 4 frames per second. And then we morph each photo to one to the other. And then the other was to shoot with 2 cameras at the same time, and then morph from one to another. And then I would create this frozen moment. But I can't really claim that I invented the Matrix, because it was this guy called Emmanuel Carlier who, in the same time, developed this technique with multiple cameras. And I always share the credit, and I know that he says that I copied him. So I don't know. It came at the same time from different directions. I remember the effect where everything gets distorted. Basically, I asked the guy who was doing the morphing, which was my brother, by the way, to morph only, to take care only of the character, the front character, and the rest of the landscape behind will be stretched without any control. And that's why it feels like the landscape goes like a chewing gum. And I remember watching the first shot we did like that, and being so excited, because we had made something that we never seen before, and it was. I asked a guy who had taken acid, because I never took this type of or any type of drugs, and I wanted to reproduce the effect you can see when you're under acid, and he told me that things look like, the world look like the surface of the tea when it gets cold. You have those little plaques that move. And so I got the idea from that.
Fantastic. And there's I don't know if it's true, this anecdote that then I think you used a similar technique for a vodka commercial, and then Joel Silver came to you and actually tried to buy the idea from you?
No, it was not like that. We had a project with Joel Silverman, and it didn't happen, but I had met him several times. And one time I was calling him, and he told me, "Oh, by the way, we are ripping you off as we talk." And they called, when they were working on it, they used to call it the Smirnoff effect.
Okay.
This image where people stop, like with a gun or in a fight like that on the camera, turn around. Yeah, that was coming from Smirnoff. This commercial I did for Smirnoff.
Okay, so from now on, can we at least all call it the Gondry effect? And
it's fine. It's gonna piss the other guy off. So
yeah. I'm sure he's a nice guy.
I don't want to. One day I called him and I was trying to explain him that I had this idea without copying him, and he didn't want to recognize it. So I remember being in tears at the end. I was so frustrated that he called me a liar.
Yeah, I think he copied you. I think that's the story I'm going to go with myself.
No.
So obviously there are the effects. We can then move into the massive attack one, which again, I'd like to think that everyone here has absolutely seen this numerous times, but some of the people in the audience perhaps were only actually even born when this was coming up. So in the same way as you found a new way of manipulating time, I feel like this one is you found a new way of manipulating space. That there's, I mean, watching this now and remembering what life was like before VFX were so easy and widespread. It's again, you can probably watch it more clearly on your own time, but
yeah. So the building. Sorry, I'm trying to talk as we are speaking. Here we started in the normal direction, and basically when they go in the entrance, the entrance turn, and they are now on their back, and everything is all the building is horizontal now. So like here, you look toward this direction. And when you see everybody here, you have those mirrors, you see this line on the side. When you see people walking, there is a mirror, and then there is a corridor that's horizontal, but all the other windows, people are on their side. So we build the building, all the windows on the boxes were horizontal. And it's the first time that I used the Luma camera, and it was all done really in one shot. Like she's lying on her back, and behind you can see there is a mirror, so you can see her image on the left. So to create the depth, we have big mirror at 45 degrees.
I mean, the planning for that must have just been...
I remember I had a meeting with the band, Massive Attack, and I had built the old building in Lego blocks, and I had made the crane and everything. And they were so cold. They were okay, they were nice, but they were so cold. And I went to Bristol we waited in a hotel that all the band come in. And the main guy, I forgot his name, him actually, was waiting for the other to come, and he didn't even look at my construction and didn't ask anything. So they have this attitude, very cold. So everybody is landing on their back, basically.
It's extraordinary. And it's even still extraordinary, even if we were trying to shoot this today with as many VFX as you want, it would still be, you still look at it as a viewer and think, how? How did you do it? Never mind. It's almost like a Bach partita where you think, how can you play this? Never mind actually conceive of it. It's quite...
Yeah, because when you do it in front of the camera, you have a lot of little accident or texture that you could not have if you use blue screen and CGI. And I mean, I like the challenge as well.
Yeah. I mean, that was something I wanted to ask you.
This guy is high, that's why he's floating.
It's incredible. I mean, that's kind of seems to run throughout your work, this idea of where possible doing an in-camera effect rather than in-post. Is that something you...
Yes, but I like it because it's you have to commit to everything before you shoot it and during the shoot, and after you don't have option, and it's very frightening because like the song was like maybe 4 minutes on the first or 5 minutes on the first test, and it's really one shot. And the first run we did was 10 minutes, so it was a catastrophe. And little by little, when you do those one-shot video, everybody start to adjust and get better and better. And when you succeed the shot, there is a common an ensemble of sharing. It's very fun to live.
I mean, and did you spend like the actual shooting, was it 1 day, 2 days, 3 days? I mean, it takes
the actual shooting was 1 day, and we have probably 1 week of preparation.
Yeah.
And there is a back projection. So yeah, I really made everything the hardest possible.
And all in camera, pretty much. There's Well, all the backdrop are construction or back projection. So it's safe to say that, I mean, not just in these films, but going forward, that it feels as if the idea of illusion is something that interests you. I mean, you've spoken about like magic tricks as a child.
Yeah, I like. I mean, I'm interested that when you put a mirror that is 45 degrees, something that is above it will look further. This intrigues me. So let's say you have the studio, which is a surface, and it's a certain size. And how it's like if you take a sheet of paper which is square, how you can, by cutting some line and folding, you can create a third dimension that you could not have in reality. So by using mirror, for instance, in this case. So I always like geometry. That was the subject I was the best at school. I was terrible in geography and history because my memory doesn't work very well. But in geometry and math, I was okay. So I like to use those things in shooting.
Yeah, it shows. We might go on to the Chemical Brothers, as if your minds aren't quite blown enough yet. Now you mentioned the word dimension. And what I'm interested in is how, so you've manipulated time, you've manipulated space. In this one, you're really playing with our perceptions and the way we perceive time and space surrounded. I mean, I read somewhere that you wanted to mix video and film, and you've done that, obviously, but I'm curious as to whether you're playing with these enormous metaphysical ideas in a very lighthearted and artistic way. And I wonder, do you ever examine the implications of this interdimensionality? You know, there's a kind of a whole physics around these ideas.
Well, there is different things I wanted to try. I wanted to make this type of 80s video effect, when the effects were really at the beginning, like you would have one shape and you would multiply. Even at the late 70s, you had this effect, and I wanted to reproduce them physically. So you would have one girl first, and then with the landscape. Then you would have on stage the same girl and 9 imitation, or actually there were 7 in all, maybe 6 imitation of her with the same hair, same dress and everything, and multiply the landscape with big print on little walls, and then do morphing to unite them. So you would have this effect that would come from one single image to this multiplication or kaleidoscopic effect. And as well, I had this problem between video and film. I remember Spike Jonze had no issue with shooting videos with a small video camera. And I had a complex because I knew that was where we would go. And I started before him, and I was very attached to film. So, and it was for me to confront this, this fear of video. So everything like this image, when you see it on location, it's shot on a small video camera, and everything like what you see now is shot with a film camera, and both mixed together. That was my approach to video, basically. I needed a transition. And as well, I'm a huge fan of the Monty Python. And when they're outside, it's on film, because at the time the film camera was smaller, and when they are on more blurry, and when they were on stage, it was on video. And because the video camera was sharper, but much bigger. So, and there is a huge difference of texture, whether they are outside or inside, and they don't care, they just cut from inside to outside. And there is a sketch that's really great, that's one of my favorites of the Monty Python, where, I don't know if it's John Cleese or one other, he look at the window, and you cut from outside, and you see him from outside, it's on film. And then he crosses the room, and he goes outside again through the door, and he looks, and he's on film. And he goes back into the room, which is on video, and he say, listen, I have a bad news. We're surrounded by film. And I think this awareness really did sparkle something in my brain.
And then we'll move on to Kylie, please, where I suppose there's another principle at work here where, I mean, I was just saying to Michel before, I love the fact that you take Kylie Minogue singing "Come Into My World," and it's rather than just being an obvious sex video, as so many Kylie videos do become, this again I think is entering into this multiplicity of dimensions that you offer without great weight and the kind of heaviness of philosophy.
But I like to show people or create a world that starts from very trivial, very random, and then you see something special or abnormal or magical happening. So the street where it was a corner in Paris, and we recreated some of the store. But it's funny because I never heard anything sexual in this song, so my mind is innocent. Because I don't think she was talking about anything sexual in it. But anyway, that's how I didn't probably miss out something. But I have to confess, it's an interpretation in a short film called Tango that this director, Zbig, Polish director, did in the 70s, where we see multiple people entering and leaving a room, and each one do a loop, and at the end there are 50 people in the room. So it's a declination of him, but one time I met him and I apologized to him, and he accepted the apology. So,
okay. So better than with Emmanuel, anyway. A more happy.
Yeah, exactly.
Connection.
He's not a bitter person.
So I wonder. So I mean, there's an infinite number. We don't have time to play through everything. I just wonder, when you look back at your. We'll move on to the features and more contemporary stuff, but just overall, when you look back, are there particular things that you look at as that was really a success? So it doesn't matter about like box office necessarily, but what you as an artist felt like, that moment of looking and going, oh, we've invented something new. I mean, are there other moments in your career that stand out that way of what something you loved?
Well, on my side, it's I mean, when you move into film, which I did in early 2000, then it belongs more to people. People get strong opinion. Mm-hmm. So it alters my own opinion on film. For instance, in Beacon Rewind, I thought this film had some weakness, but the fact that they were remaking those films themselves with any means they had around them, sort of became a trend. And the word I invented, which was called sweating, it's completely random, is in Wikipedia now, and it explained that it means you recreate a film with cardboard and stuff. So I'm proud of that. In general, people who come to talk to me always say, I like your last movie, but the one I prefer is Eternal Sunshine of Spotless Mind. So I guess this movie had a strong impact on people, on a certain generation of people, and grew over the 10 last years more and more. It's much more famous now than it was in 2004 when it came out. So it's interesting to see. Sometimes it feels a bit like a burden, because it feels that everything I do looks not as good as this movie, and I wish I do a new movie that people in the future refer to this one. But it's still better than to have that than nothing. So.
Yeah, we might just play the clip from Be Kind Rewind, because actually, I think this is...
I want my own trailer next to my trailer, a movie trailer.
I mean, if you haven't seen this film,
count.
rush.
Get up, Jerry! Everybody's ready!
They were not protected. As far as Foreman goes, he was devastating that punching bag, and we riders were so frightened for Ali.
Look, it's incredible. The pilots are black, I'm black, the whole plane is black, and we're not crashing. Oh.
Dave, it's me, Hal. I'm afraid I can't open the pod doors, Dave. Why don't you take a jog around the space capsule?
Okay, I'm ready. Go.
Pick up and inquire. Find out what the aliens are doing. We're upside down. I'm upside down. The whole universe is in a marvel.
Thanks a million. That's great. I mean, is that not amazing? Really, like, it really is. And that clip feels to me like a lot of the things you invented kind of come together in a way with this. You use some. You might recognize little pieces from different places. I mean,
yeah, I mean something that's hard is when you do something short, you can be longer, and when you do something a movie, it's very hard to have those long sequence shots, because at the end the movie is always too long, and you have to make it shorter. So when I mean in the Orson Welles movie Evil,
Touch of Evil.
Touch of Evil, and there is this one long shot to start with. Like one shot one take, long take shot are harder to fit in a movie, because you always end up too long. I mean, it's from my experience. So there is a cut actually in this whole shot that we hid, because the movie was too long and we have to make it shorter.
Oh well, we'll never know. won't tell. And just in relation to that, I mean, especially for those of us struggling, let's say, are there any mistakes that you would say you would have made and have learned from, or any kind of failures that you look back and you think, oh, I wish I'd done that differently, or
oh yes, every movie I have many regrets.
Oh no.
So maybe it's why all my movies are very different. I think I always think, oh, I did that wrong. I should have done that. So I will make something really different. Maybe it's going to be better, and so on.
Is there any big glaring thing that you? We'll get happy again later, but.
Let's see. Yes, I think my first film, Human Nature, I storyboard every shot, and it was a mistake, which I learned after. And then when I did Eternal Sunshine, I really learned that it was good that my first film was not successful at all, and it was very much rejected by everybody. Because I remember after it was hard to swallow bad reviews, no box office. It was very hard to swallow. And but what I did, I remember I took some holidays after, and I was by the river to start. And I took a big notebook, and I wrote all the problem I had on one side of the book, notebook, on the beginning, all the reviews that were very hard, and what hurt me in those reviews because I felt they were right. Like, for instance, the character felt very contrived and stuck in the frame, and I turned it, and for each problem I looked for a solution. And the notebook ended up to have like 30 pages full of notes, and I read it every morning before I went to the shooting at Eternal Sunshine. So let's say I didn't want to make a storyboard. I didn't have to follow the screenplay word by word. I let more breathing and space on each shot, and in general in the film, and all sorts of. And I think that between Human Nature and Eternal Sunshine, first of all, Eternal Sunshine, I came with the concept, so I was much more involved in the story, and I was stronger to say, okay, let's change that, and we did a lot of improvisation, and I worked much more with the actor. For instance, when it was contrived, I asked Kate to, a technique I find out is to reverse the dialogue, like ask Kate to say Jim's lines and ask Jim to do Kate's line, and they would learn something from the experience and then to shoot reverse them, so it would refresh the situation. And I had a lot of techniques that I had thought of before. So that was a positive. I made something positive out of something that was negative.
Very good. That's a good trick, actually, about the reversing the dialogue. I know Ridley Scott still storyboards every single frame, so people can take their pick which movies they feel have a little more life.
No, I mean, and it's interesting when you read or listen to directors, because they have all their own philosophy, and you can take anything you want from one to another. But like if you listen to Hitchcock, it's going to be the opposite of Buñuel says. And they are all both very interesting. Or Bresson, and they tell them that they speak to the audience or the writer as if it was the only way to make movies, and they one says something and the other one's going to say the opposite. So it's important to put things in context, so you don't get your mind stuck on one way of shooting.
Just to kind of go back to where we started, in a sense, we might. I just want to demonstrate how the shot that, or the technique that you invented, that you then got it used again on a Hollywood movie, but just to demonstrate kind of the way we've all seen a million Hollywood fight scenes, and I'd love to just show you this one from the Green Hornet to demonstrate the kind of what Michel brought to the shooting of it.
Open blood. You're a dead man. Come on, let's go. Behind you! Eat shit!
Thank you. So there you were working in a very Hollywood context, I guess. I mean, how did you find that, or did you enjoy it?
It was interesting. Interesting. No, actually, I had a good time because like Hollywood is like a huge toy box. You have all the backdrop you want. We printed actually, it was probably 200 feet long landscape that we used the biggest stage of Sony, and maybe one of the biggest stage of Hollywood. And we shot as well in the stage where Esther Williams did this big choreography. So below the floor, I knew there was this huge swimming pool, and it's like a huge game, a huge toy that you can construct with everything you have in mind. And this part is really fun. The hardest part was that Seth Rogen, who I really love and is great, he was a producer, the writer, and the main actor in the film. And it was not really possible to put my imprint on the film. So we end up under the studio. We had done much longer and darker version, and the studio hated it, and we have to recut it, and so it doesn't. And this movie was hated in America for some reason. It was much more liked in Europe. All the superhero geeks were really full of hatred because we didn't take the genre seriously. It was too much in between. But what's funny when you do a movie like that, it was after Eternal Sunshine, and you do a big meeting. So first I did some suggestion. I had meetings with some producer, with Seth Rogen, and Evan Goldberg, his partner, or writing partner. And so I was replacing a director. So all the crew was put together already. And so I have this meeting to this huge table in Sony Picture, and the boss of Sony Picture, Amy Pascal, and all the executive. And finally, they just ask you one question. Promise us that you will not do a handheld camera like an indie movie, and it's going to be like pristine and solid framing. And I say yes, and I got the job. So I thought it was funny. You just have to say that, and then you do whatever you want. But the problem is, when you have to decide the way you're going to do the shot, you always remind yourself that you said yes, and you have to do it. So morally, you are entitled to do it this way. And I think it's how it works. And maybe if I was Kubrick, I could say yes to the question and then do something completely crazy. I mean, there were a few sequences where it's pretty crazy, but most of all, the comedy was a little too broad to my taste.
And so was it in a way almost a reflex to having been through this experience that made Is the Man Who Is Tall Happy a kind of attracted you to doing something small, personal, and more
yes, I mean, and the truth is that I had very good, I was paid very well to do this movie, and thanks to that, I can do movies like the Chomsky one, or a movie about my auntie.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's a balance.
I found with the auntie one, just since you mentioned, A Thorn in My Heart, I think is the English
A
version.
Thorn in the Heart.
Yeah, in the heart. That even though it's a very personal, intimate, seemingly quite straight documentary, there's still this question of illusion, because our expectations, or we think we know this woman, and then there's a different tone introduced, and so it leaves us again with this shifting of perceptions. And is there any one?
Well, I don't know if many of the audience has seen this one, but my auntie was a school teacher, and we, in very small cities in the mountain, and very small classroom, sometimes with 4 pupils, and it was very hard to find former pupils of her, because they went in. We basically found 3 or 4. And one that was her pupil her teacher's life was her son. And we started to interview him, because, and she was speaking like the teacher. So the interview became boring, because she was like teaching us, and it was very stiff. And so when we started to bring her son, the second, because we did that over different summers or different years. And the second time we did the interview, we brought her son, and we saw the tension between them. And it turned out, well, I knew that her son was homosexual, and she had a lot of resent to that. And that became that's this shift you're talking about. That became where she became more uncomfortable, and I thought I was sort of cheating with her, because the movie was supposed to be called Suzette School or something like that, and it became more about her and her son and all these difficulties they had to live together, and so that was the shift. And I thought the documentary would have been boring without that, and I felt I had to go in this direction. And she really disliked it for a while, and then she understood. And in fact, this film brought them back together. And that's a positive outcome.
Good. And then we're going to be screening later tonight the Is the Man Who Is Tall Happy? So we might just quickly look at the trailer for that, and then have a little chat about that one as well.
How do we identify something as a tree? You plant a tree, it grows. You cut a branch off it, and you put that branch in the ground. Suppose it grows and becomes exactly identical to the original tree. Is that new one the same willow tree? Why not? It's not so simple.
As you can see, I felt a bit stupid here.
Why should we take it to be obvious that if I let go of a ball, it goes down and not up? Learning comes from asking, why do things work like that? Why not some other way? The world is a very puzzling place. If you're not willing to be puzzled, you just become a replica of someone else's mind. Visual experience is just stimulation to the retina, but we impose an extremely rich interpretation of it. We see the world in terms of trees and dogs and rivers and so on, but then the question is, well, what are those concepts? people are just not satisfied to think I go from dust to dust and there's no meaning to my life.
What makes you happy?
I don't really think about it much.
It's really great, by the way, everyone can see it. I have two questions for you, and then we're going to open it up. I just would love
that's right, because I'm always looking in this direction. I feel those people just see my back. I feel a bit it's unfair.
I'm sure so. So one thing I'd love for people to know in advance is that I think, or you mentioned earlier having to commit to something and not be able to fix it in the edit. I mean, the thing that I noticed about this and kind of terrified me was that because the pictures, the filmed footage, let's say the non-animated pictures, you shot on a Bolex, wind-up Bolex with Noam Chomsky. So you committed in advance. You say it in the film, but it really terrified me, this notion that you were committing in advance to which parts, typically in documentary you just shoot everything that moves and then fix it later in the edit. Whereas this was like, okay, we have these, 2 minutes, maybe 4 minutes, maybe. And there must have been times when he was speaking and you thought, oh, I wish I was rolling in this bit, or how did that work?
We recorded, I guess 90 minutes or 2 hours with the sound. Mm-hmm. And I picked, out of that I picked maybe 10 minutes randomly with my camera. But see, you feel it's frightening. But to me, I felt it was much more simple. It was than to shoot everything and then spend an hour to decide what part we were gonna use. Mm-hmm. And so I say, okay, that's out of the problem. I'm gonna have just I don't have to make all this work. And maybe and it didn't matter that if some other part was more important, then we illustrate with only drawings, which was most of the film. And so when I talk about it in the film, the idea that I committed to animate most of the film, like 99% of the film, because I just had small clips of his image. And I knew that it would be, I could have the temptation to go him full screen too many times to have less work to do with animation. So it was this engagement I took was for me a safety, so I would not become lazy and do just full screen of him. And it's interesting because you can tell sometimes I start the camera and you always hear the camera because it seems that it's very important. So you can have my own feeling when the camera is rolling. I feel he's saying something that's important. And sometimes he says something that I didn't really understand. So you can hear click, which is the end of the camera shooting. And then I ask the question, because I couldn't focus really on what he was saying if I was focusing on taking the image. So it brought something interesting.
And Michel animated the whole thing by himself as well, by the way.
Well, I had few shots that was, I did the drawing for the beginning, and then they were animated by other animators. So, but most of it I did on my own.
So then my last question before I open it up is just, you ask him a question in the film that I'm not sure he answered to the at least to my satisfaction. Let's say you were asking him about whether I won't go into the backstory, but the idea of when we perceive or when we see something, are we, I think you said, like, does the honeybee project its image onto the world, or do we actually respond? He's saying we don't respond to visual stimulus. We have this, idea. I mean, how do you, did you
Well,
get
I remember trying to ask him that, so basically, we understand it's a tree because, yeah, it was my question. Do you understand the tree because we have sort of in ourselves the shape of a tree? And the idea was like, do we have shapes on the grid in our system that influence us when, let's say, we build a city? And the example was like the bee when they build the beehive. They do it automatically. They know that they go this way, and then after a certain amount of time they go this way, and then this way, and then they divide and whatever. They don't think, okay, we're going to build, there's no one bee coming with a map and saying, okay, we have to do that, and go there, go there. They just do it by instinct. So I was saying if it was something in our brain that would dictate how we make things. And he probably it doesn't work like that, because his answer was many times he didn't answer directly the question. He answered what he wanted the audience to know. So it was hard sometimes, because I would come back and ask him the question again, and he would still answer me something else. And sometimes he probably didn't understand my accent.
And what do you think? Do you think we have an innate shape?
Maybe what I think is like maybe I oversimplified my interpretation was a little bit naive of what of his concept. So, but I think in the film, with the contradiction that exists in the film, you can have a sense that is more accurate than my own understanding. So, because I put my doubts and my misunderstanding as a part of the film, so it's not like I'm trying to illustrate or explain what he says. It's more how I feel when I hear him talking to me. I understand something, so I'm going to illustrate it, and something I don't understand, so I will draw a book when he speaks about this book. Obviously, it's kind of silly to draw a book because it's speaking about a book. I'm not going to the content really, but it waves. Sometimes I understand, so I go really into the content, and sometimes I miss the point, so I go on the side, or I become abstract.
Very good. It's playing tonight at 6:30 in the IFI, and then now, so folks, any questions from the audience? I'm sure there's. Go for it. You have to speak loudly until a mic gets to you, maybe, or shout.
I just want to ask you about Eternal Sunshine. I saw it in the cinema when I was 14, and it just changed the way that I saw movies. But how did you collaborate to develop the story? Can you talk a bit about your process in developing that story?
Well, one of my best friends, Pierre Bismuth, who got one Oscar too for this contribution to the story, had this concept. He came to me one day and he said, I'm going to do that. I'm going to send a card to random people saying them that this friend of them erased him from his memory, and they should never try to call this person and try to reach this person. And he wanted to do that for real and see the reaction of people. So when he told that to me, I said, that's a great concept for a story. So we wrote a sort of one-page storyline where this guy decided to erase his girlfriend from his memory, and or this girl has erased her boyfriend from her memory, and this guy do that the same to revenge, in a way, to get even with her. And then we took that to Charlie Kaufman, and we worked a bit with Charlie Kaufman, and then Charlie Kaufman went off and wrote this great screenplay.
How's it going? I was wondering if you could talk about your relationship with dreams and dreaming, and how your particular dreams influenced your work.
Yeah, it's funny. Lately, maybe I have an issue, a psychological issue, but when I wake up, I feel I'm 2%. I feel there is 1% that is awake, or 1% that is still in the dream. And I notice that lately, I speak when I just merge out of my dream, and because, let's say I'm in the middle of a conversation with somebody in my dream, and this person asks me a question, and then I'm getting awake, and because I know it was a dream, but I feel very rude that I didn't answer the person. So I speak very quietly because I feel I'm crazy. If people hear me, but I feel let's say in my dream, the person is speaking to me. Are we going to climb this tree? And then I wake up and I am like, yes, tomorrow, something like that. And there is a gap of 10 to 20 minutes where you feel the dream as an existence, is real, and it's, the boundaries of the dream and reality is very blurry. But this aside, I wake up at every cycle of the dream, every cycle of sleep is about 90 minutes. And generally, you have a bit of sleep after the dream, the REM sequence, where you keep sleeping before you wake. But me, for some reason, I awake right in the middle or at the end of the REM sleep. So I generally remember my dreams. And it's true that I use a lot of my dreams when I write scenes. Like the last movie that I'm finishing now, which is called Microbe and Gasoline, which it's about two kids who build a car. The first part of the film is memories from when I was 14, and the second part is just based on dreams I had when I was writing the beginning of the screenplay. So maybe because sort of memories came back and they were mixed up with present time. So I got all the material I needed to finish my story from dreaming while I was working on the beginning of the screenplay. So yes, I use a lot of my dreams to work.
Hello? No? Okay. I just had a quick question for you. I was wondering if Noam Chomsky had ever contacted you after the film was released, and if he had told you how he felt about the film, or if any of the ideas that he was saying were misinterpreted in any way.
He did 3 screenings with me, which he never did for his other movies, because he doesn't care of seeing his close-up for 90 minutes. So he appreciated that he was not very much in the film, on all the craft and the work, and he was very complimentary on the film. And I remember at the middle of the film, I went to show him, as I say, you will see that tonight. I show him the film, and he said yes. That's what I said. It's I remember exactly what he said. He said, yes, it's. I agree with it. Agree with himself, but that's. I mean, if you go deeper, it means that when he says something, he really think of it before. That's why he speaks very slow, we actually had to make it faster by cutting a lot of thinking before I speak. So he really think before he says something. So when he saw that, he agreed with himself because it's not just random speaking. But he liked what he saw, and he said, yes, it's true. It's too bad about the generative grammar and how this is a notion that's still very strong. It's still controversial. And he said it's too bad it's going to take years and years before people accept this idea. And I told him, are you upset that you won't be around when people do accept this idea? He said, no, I don't care about that. What I care is like there will be no civilization at this stage because of the global warming or the nuclear destruction. So that was his response to that. But except of that, he watched it 3 times at least. He invited his family to watch it, and he did few Skype or presentation of the film, so that he agrees with the film basically.
Oh, there was a lady here. We're only supposed to take one more. I know we just started a little late. That's all. All right, go ahead. Sorry, please. Oh,
any plans to shoot on black and white with any of the cameras that have now come out with the black and white chip?
No, I don't think so. Well, it took me a while before I swallowed to go from film to digital. So I feel going to black and white would be a nostalgic statement. No, I don't think so. I think it's a very strong aesthetic statement that I would not want to make. It's like sometimes people watch movie where the color of the clothes are matching the background, and it takes me out of the story because somebody who has a purple shirt can go in a yellow room, and there is in real life. So I prefer. I mean, I like if it looks nice, but I don't want it to feel we control it. So black and white is little like that.
okay, I'm being really. Can we have one? No, we really can't. One more. Okay, this is really the last. Go for it. Sorry.
It kind of leads off of what you just said. The fact that you embraced digital kind of it took you a little while. In regards to the shot or the scene from Be Kind Rewind, I've tried to mimic a lot of the stuff that you do, but I use robotic arms to do one takes that can rotate and spin and do 360 moves. What sort of cinema tools did you use for that scene? And are you using other sort of like more kind of robotic arms or non-dollies, not steady cams and things like that?
For the Kali-Minute video, we use motion control. So we can match exactly the same. For the one shot of Massive Attack, that was Luma. So it's so the motion control. I don't know if everybody knows what it is. It's a mechanical arm that records what you tell it to do, and it can redo it many times. So you can superpose, and you have this perfectly matching set. The Luma is a crane that you operate from the ground with cranks like that. And I use the Steadicam for the one shot of Be Kind Rewind, the one we saw with the one shot. So that's sure that's. I really have to go now.
I know, it's tragic.
It seems unfair.
All these miles.
Let's take a few more questions.
Come on. We'll have a riot.
I just wanted to ask a quick question about your music videos, which I was marginally obsessed with as a teenager and probably still am. How much did the music inspire the visual idea, or how much had you already certain kind of techniques or visions that you just wanted to do and a music video was a good way of doing it, or how much was it in response to the music itself?
It's mixed. I have a notebook full of ideas, because at the beginning I would do one video for 10 projects, and then later I would do maybe one for 3 and then one for 2. So I had a lot of ideas. Sometimes some concept. I think the one for Kylie Minogue, I had it for another song, but it fit. It was perfect for Kylie Minogue song. And sometimes that comes from the song itself. For instance, the other video I did for Chemical Brothers, Star Guitar, with the train window, I talked to them. Actually, I never met those guys. We talk always on the phone. And one of the two spoke to me and said, oh, we just feel, we have no concept, no idea, but we just feel it's like a trip, we're going away. And so I had this idea to see through a train window. So it could be, or the one I did for Daft Punk. We didn't know what to do. Suddenly, one of them said, we could do a choreography that would fit the song. And I never done a choreography for a video, so I went for it. And I wanted to generate choreography like the Janet Jackson video. They cut very cutty to show the energy and the close-ups. And I wanted to do the choreography like they were supposed to be seen like an ensemble, to see the geometry of it. So I had this idea that you would really, it would be cut, but you will always feel the ensemble. So it really depends.
Go on. And I'll wait till, I mean, is there another event coming into this room? Is that what time are they supposed to start, the other?
Okay, let's the last one then.
Just a quick question about, you're an innovator as well in technology in your own right, and what kind of technology or new innovations in filmmaking are you taking on in the future, or do you see as possible tools for you in the future as a filmmaker?
Well, it's hard to, I know I had an idea recently, but I forgot what it is. Because the problem with the blue screen and the digital, it's only made to give more control to the producer in a way, or to postpone something you can shoot. Like now, if you see a guy in a car, and if you can see the light in a certain way, you know that it's done on blue screen, and it's just because the actor couldn't bother to go to this town, for instance. So I think it's a lazy way to use CGI. I think if CGI should be used, it should be to create something that you've never seen before. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of Christopher Nolan when he does a certain type of effect in Inception or on Interstellar. He really creates something that you could not see otherwise. But I don't know. I forgot what I thought. I mean, I think it's interesting to see, when people did pop art, for instance, with those big flat surface and strong color. It was interesting because they were done with brushes and painting, and they tried to work like machines. And now you push a button on a computer, and you have this shape that appears right away on the screen. So what we should do is the same thing that pop art did, to push the what the machine can do outside of its environment, of its possibility, and we should do that with the computer. We should find something with the computer that you didn't see before, that you're not supposed to do with the computer. That trying to figure out what would be the tool that will make images in 20 years, and try to do it with the machine that exists now. But what you can do, you have to figure out what you can do. Imagine what tool will exist in 20 years. It's very, very hard, but I think that's how I would try to envision the use of the computer.